let me paint this picture for you. The year is 1992, going on 1993. The company is DC Comics, and the superhero is none other than Superman. And the unthinkable happens in the very, very beginning of the 93 series. The death of the unkillable, or the thought to be unkillable, Superman. And this book, this comic book, is one of the two different types you could have gotten. This is the baggy version of the death of Superman. You guys have seen the other version, which is the ripped cape on the cover. In this issue, which is issue number Superman issue 75, I want to make sure I had the number right. Superman and Doomsday, the fight ended, and Superman died. With this baggie, you got a nice set of stamps. This armband that was worn during the funeral. This news article, which is a print of the obituaries for the Daily Planet. And this prototype trading card. There was a trading card series for both the death and return of Superman. This was the prototype for the death. So why am I doing this video? There was also a poster, but we'll get to that in a moment. Why am I doing this video? Well, by now you guys have seen part 1 on Dark Avenger Inc. I shot this video a bit late. And part 1 is the reign of Superman. Me and Spider Slayer, his channel is Comic Book Corner. We work on Dark Avenger Inc. together. Each of us will be doing an issue of the reign of Superman. And I thought this would be perfect because, as you can see, I have the death and several funerals across my wall. Plus, I have the 2 issues on this wall. You could show them, Mike. Here's the last part of the funeral for a friend, which we'll get into in a minute. And then the Adventures of Superman and Superman in Action Comics, which were the 2 issues that followed the end of the reign of Superman, which we'll talk about once we get to the end. So this you could call a prologue, that's what the title is, to mine and Spider Slayer's run through of the reign of the Superman. So before we get into the actual reign of the Superman, I would like to talk a little bit about what happened after this, the death of Superman. This normally is supposed to go on the upper part of your arm. Unfortunately, as you guys can see, this thing is a pain in the butt, not only to get on, but to keep on. As you can see, I'm using Scotch tape, and the second this tape comes off, as so, it's very easy to just slide off, and there's your armband. Okay, but we don't need the armband anymore. Okay, so Superman died. This is the very beginning of the 93 series. This is number 2. Back then, on the Superman comics, if you could zoom in on this really quick, because this is the funeral, they had what I call triangle numbers. I guess that's what everybody calls them, triangle numbers. And the triangle numbers allowed you to keep track of the issues in order, because back in the 90s, starting in 1990, all the way through until 2000 and I believe 3, Superman, Action Comics, Adventures of Superman, and Superman the Man of Steel all went one right after the other. Unlike now where each issue has its own story, and even though we only have 2 Superman issues left, I believe in the year 2004, DC Comics decided to separate the Superman comics and have each comic book once again have its own story. But the entire 90s, from 1990 to 2000, each Superman story went right into another. So if you bought Action Comic one week and then the next week was Adventure, Adventure continued the story that was to be continued in Action. I know for a lot of you new readers, this is something that you're like, wow, really? Yeah, all the Superman books back then were connected. And they all kept, and that's why the Superman stories were that much bigger, because you had 4 titles plus Man of Steel on the 5 Wednesday months. Man of Steel, not Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow was the 5. It was Superman, Superman in Action, The Adventures of Superman, Superman the Man of Steel, and then when you had that 5th Wednesday in the month, Superman the Man of Tomorrow. But the Man of Tomorrow was always a separate story. Very rarely did it connect with any of the series. In this case, it, I believe, did. So let's talk about what happened after the death of Superman. Well, what happened after the death of Superman was an 8-part story known as The Funeral of Superman, or as they called it, Funeral for a Friend. Can you see the entire poster? And this is the poster you got with the death of Superman. And during Funeral for a Friend, it was a huge reflection on Superman's life, Superman, the whole fact that people didn't believe he was dead at first, and the setup for the reign of the Superman. Now I'm going to take this off the wall really quick, because this issue, which is Superman issue 77, the 10th issue of the year so far, of the serial of 1993, the serial year of 1993, was the last issue for Funeral for a Friend. And in this issue, Superman was already buried. And Lex Luthor is, right at this moment, nobody knows that the clone, Superman, Lex Luthor at this moment, they took his brain out, put it in a clone's body, and the clone was supposed to be fully a clone. Like, nobody's supposed to know that it's really Lex Luthor in there, in the mind of the clone. Everybody believes that it's a clone, that it's completely new, and Lex Luthor's changed. Jonathan Kent, in the last issue, Funeral for a Friend 7, suffers from a heart attack, and he's rushed to the hospital. And there's a lot of, once again, reminiscing from the past, Supergirl, Lois Lane, a lot of different people shown up. Somebody's tried to steal Superman's body from his tomb, which they put back, of course. Lex Luthor, who is pissed off because he's the one that wanted to kill Superman. I love his line, where is it? So I win. I knew I'd bury you one day. And then he said a couple other things. And he's like, I own this town. There wasn't a man on earth who could stop me from doing what I wanted. Anyone who dared interfere, they were given a one-way ticket to hell. That's the main reason I killed her. I don't know who he's talking about. I believe he's talking about somebody from the past. But anyway, the very end of this book, Jonathan Kent is flatlining. And there's flashes of Martha Kent and then Superman. And the issue ends with Jonathan Kent flatlining. And it shows Jonathan Kent actually reaching out for Superman. Now, why am I showing you guys Funeral for a Friend? Well, that's because it leads into, you guys saw the black baggie, which is the death of Superman. Let me put this back. Actually, I'll put it back later because I have to turn my entire body around. Well, 8 issues later, there was a white bag that was released. And this is the collector set for the Back from the Dead Superman. Let me slide this book out. I'll put it back in its baggie later. This was issue number 11 in the serial for 1993. But it's better known as The Adventures of Superman issue 500. It was a special. You can take this part off of the comic. This is the second copy I have. The other copy I took this off. It's like a, oh, what do you call those things that you can play with? They used to have it back in the day. Polygram. It's a poly something. I forgot what they called them. But you could take it off and put it back on again. It's one of those like window clings, except it clings to the comic cover. And it takes off Jonathan Kent's hand and it just shows Superman reaching out instead. This was what followed the Funeral for a Friend. It bridges together Funeral for a Friend with the Reign of Superman. And with this came a card, but I'll show you guys that later. And it actually starts off where the other comic left off. And the artist, I believe, in this book is Orway. I want to make triple sure, though. Pencils are by Tom Grumman. I'm sorry. Okay, so Jonathan Kent is dead in this issue, and so is Superman at the time. It jumps back and forth from Gangbuster. For those of you who don't know who Gangbuster is, this is Gangbuster. To Jonathan Kent, who is between life and death at this moment. And he's trying to find Clark in all this. And there's a lot of stuff going on in Metropolis. A lot of stuff that's going to happen that's going to follow through in the reign. So I'm not really going to get too into it. Jonathan Kent also meets Kismet. I believe that's her name. I cannot remember for the life of me if that's it. Kismet. Yeah, I was right. Wow. Okay. Kismet, who actually goes all the way through till 1998. She saves in several stories. And then he finally shows up. him and Superman are at the tethering of death and life. So Jonathan Kent is trying now to convince his son, Clark, that he's not really, you know, being taken to heaven with his Kryptonian brethren, that it's a lie, it's a trick. You know, he has to wake up, and then he finally realizes it, and that's when the awesome artwork starts, and the fight for life happens between Jonathan Kent and Clark. So they fight, and then this is where, in the comic, he finally came back to life, and Clark followed right behind him. It was both of them together. So Jonathan Kent wakes up, and they also show the statue where they buried Superman, the memorial. And this is the part where it prequels the reign of the Supermen. Lois Lane goes back to the Daily Planet, and a Superman appears when she's flying home. There's another report of another Superman who saved the girl, and you can see the car he stopped. Bibbo, who, for those of you who watch the animated series, you know who Bibbo is. You'll be hearing from him in the Reign of Superman. The body disappeared also from the tomb. There was the introduction of Steel happens towards the end. And this is basically where it's a 4-part prologue. This was the introduction of Steel. Then 3 pages later is the introduction to the Eradicator, which leads into part 1 of the Reign of Supermen, which Spider Slayer already reviewed. You can go on Dark Avenger Inc. and check that out. There's the next part, which introduces my favorite character, Superboy, a few pages later. And then the entire book ends with the introduction of the cyborg Superman. This issue led to the many questions of which of the 4 Supermen is Superman. You can automatically rule out Steel. We all know Steel isn't Superman. And you'll find out who Steel is in part 2, because I'm going to be reviewing the Man of Steel issue 22, which is the second part to the Reign of Supermen, and that's Steel's first issue. And you could also rule out Superboy, because he makes it well known right off the bat that he is a clone of Superman, not the actual Superman. So that left everybody in the 90s, in 1993, wondering whether Cyborg Superman or the Eradicator Superman, whom at the time they were just calling Superman, they didn't call him the Eradicator because nobody knew it was the Eradicator, was the real Superman, because the body had disappeared. And at the first issue of the Reign, well, actually, here we go. The card that came with this book is this, and you can zoom in on that, Mike. The 4 Supermen. And each of the Supermen in their first issues were introduced. Eradicator was introduced in Superman. Steel was introduced in Superman, the Man of Steel. Superboy, I believe, was introduced in The Adventures of Superman. And the Cyborg Superman was in just the plain Superman 1. I said that right, Mike? Yeah. So, there you go. And Man of Tomorrow probably just bridged the gap between the 4. So, you had the 4 Supermen introduced in this issue, which then led into this huge story. This book calls it The Return of Superman. In reality, it's called The Reign of Superman. The Reign of the Supermen, I'm sorry. The Reign of the Supermen. And this was actually reprinted. It has a different cover. This was the original book, where they just took literally all the comics and just put them together as one huge book. And this is what I'm going to be doing my reviews through, because my individual issues are under about 4 boxes of comic books, and there is no way I can get down there, or else I would have done a full run of The Funeral up until now, and I would have just had the individual issues out. I do have the introduction of the Cyborg, Superman, and Steel out, because I have them autographed and they're part of my autograph wall. But once again, after that, all my books come straight from here. So I'm not even going to be using the Steel book. I'm going to just start straight from in here. I don't even want to open the plastic anyway. And all my reviews are going to be coming straight out of this book. And then, when me and Spider Slayer finish our run on the Reign of Superman, you can come back to this channel, and I'm going to do the 2-issue on the wall, the 2 issues that followed the Reign of Superman, which started Superman's which happened right after Superman's return, and it's set up for the stories to follow after the reign. So if you guys are interested, go to Dark Avenger Inc. I will have the link in the description bar below for the first part of the Reign of the Supermen. It's going to be on Comic Book Corner Classic because it is a classic story, and it's probably going to be the first. How many issues was in this? It's going to probably be a good 14. Well, actually, wait. The Return of Superman was in the 30th comic of 1993, so it's going to be a good 20-something part Comic Book Corner Classic introduction to Dark Avenger Inc. So we're going to be doing it. We're going to be alternating between issues. He did the first, I'll be doing the second, he'll be doing the third, I'll be doing the fourth, all the way through until the very end. And then I'll come back on this channel and do the, well, this would be considered a prologue. Those two issues will be considered the epilogue of what happened after the Reign of Superman. Originally I was going to put this on our channel, but then he posted part 1 up before I could get into contact with him, where I wanted to tell him I want to do this prologue, so I'll put it on here instead. But, as I said, in the link below is the first part to our Reign of the Superman reviews. It's Spider Slayer doing the first part. I'll be doing mine. I think we're going to be doing it like 2 days apart, a day or two apart, so mine will be up in approximately 2 days. I'll be recording my part probably tomorrow night or maybe the night after, and it'll be up definitely by Tuesday. And you guys will be able to enjoy that, and then he'll continue with the next part. And it's going to be an awesome collaboration. This was an amazing series. I love this. I've read this book Lord knows how many times throughout the entire 12 years I've been reading Superman. So this book has a lot of wear and tear because it's been read a lot. And I know the story inside and out, so basically when I do my reviews, I won't even have to really look through the book to know what's going on. I'll already know in detail what's going on. I'm a huge Superman fan. I've loved Superman in the 90s, the 80s, even the early 2000s, but this is pre-Flashpoint. This did not happen. This did not happen after Flashpoint. This is before Flashpoint. This actually, Flashpoint, ironically, erased this from happening, because after Flashpoint, Superboy was just created. Steel had a different origin. Eradicator isn't even around, and neither is Cyborg Superman. So, enjoy the classics, because these stories were the best stories, in my opinion, from the Superman era. And the fact that DC erased them is a disgrace on their part, and it's just disgusting, because these stories were the best. And guys, go to Dark Avenger Inc., click that subscribe button, because over the next 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, actually more, shoot, 30-ish issues or 20-ish issues, over the next month, let's say that, over the next month, you're going to see firsthand through my reviews and Spider Slayer's Comic Book Corner Classic reviews just how awesome in the early 90s the Superman comic stories were. And you're going to see the introduction of 4 characters. The Reign of the Supermen introduced these 4 characters into the DCU, as well as gave their groundwork to future things, because we all know Superboy, what became of him before the Flashpoint relaunch. We all know what happened to Steel. Steel, there was a lot of stories with Steel from the 90s all the way to present day until the Flashpoint relaunch. We all know about the infamous Cyborg Superman, what happened to him, and who he became. Eventually he just became Cyborg, and he was a supervillain. This isn't huge spoilers for any of you, I'm 900% sure. And the Eradicator went through several different changes before finally ending up at the point he was at right before the relaunch. And actually the Eradicator, I believe, was thought dead by the end, right before Flashpoint. So Eradicator died right before the relaunch. But we all knew if the DCU continued forward the way it was, eventually Eradicator would have just come back anyway. So this laid the groundwork for a lot of characters in the Superman mythos. Well, 4 of them at least, and in my opinion 4 of the big ones. So guys, if you haven't already, go subscribe to Dark Avenger Inc., because you're about to embark, starting today with part 1, you're going to embark on a journey of epic proportions via mine and Spider Slayer's review of the Reign of the Supermen. And I promise you guys, it's going to be a memorable one. So you're definitely not going to want to miss an issue or a part with an issue in it. You're not going to want to miss a single part of the Reign of the Supermen. And then when we finish it, you guys come back to Dark Avenger, this channel, to my personal channel, and I'll give you guys the epilogue, what happened next, the next 2 issues at least. And then from there, unfortunately I won't have the issues because they're buried under 4 boxes. But at some point, I'll probably pull them out and do some more Comic Book Corner Classic on Dark Avenger Inc. So guys, hope you enjoyed this prologue. Go to Dark Avenger Inc. We're going to be doing the Reign of the Supermen starting today, all the way through probably until the end of July. So there's a lot to come, and we'll see what else we're going to be doing in the near future. I love the team on Dark Avenger Inc. and there's just a lot to come. It's going to be huge. And I want to thank personally Spider Slayer for asking me if I'd like to embark on this journey with him and go through the Reign of the Supermen with him. It's an honor and it's a pleasure, a huge pleasure, to go through, reread, and relive these classic moments in Superman's career, because Superman was just amazing in the 90s. If there was ever an era where I'd tell somebody to collect Superman, it was 1990 through 1999, maybe even to 2000, and then stop, and then start up again on certain stories and something like that. But the 90s were the year of Superman, were the years of Superman in my opinion, and back to the 80s and what have you. So guys, see you guys real soon in a video on this channel, and on definitely a couple of videos on Dark Avenger Inc. Big things coming. There's actually a huge video I'm going to be shooting that's going to be up sometime this week. You're not going to want to miss out on that either. It may be a contest, if that gives you guys any kind of enticement to go and subscribe now. It might be a contest, and you might want what the prize is. So yeah, see you guys really soon. Take care. Enjoy our Comic Book Corner Classic crossover between me and Spider Slayer, and come back to this channel. I've got a lot of stuff planned for this channel as well. Take care, everybody. Comments, love them. Agree with something, disagree with something, questions about anything. I love questions because that gives me stuff to talk about this. Questions about this, the death and the funeral. And show YouTube you like this video by giving it a favorite. And because I don't do the thumbs up and down due to the fact that these are opinion videos. Anyway guys, take care, see you soon, keep reading, keep collecting, and have a great week. I'll be back here and on Dark Avenger Inc. real soon with another video. See you guys soon.